everyone for coming tonight to be a part of our leadership development for the month of April. Everybody's enjoying that nice warm spring weather outside in the 50s today. So thank you all for weathering the winter spring to be at leadership development tonight. We are going to talk tonight about a subject matter that is probably not talked about enough and is an obvious issue later in life if we don't deal with it earlier, and that is the area of teachability. One vital characteristic of leadership development is teachability. Are you teachable or are you a know-it-all? Are you able to be taught and instructed and grow as a result? Or do you tend to kick against that, become immediately defensive, and actually lose out on some growing opportunities? Legendary basketball coach John Wooden said, "It's what you learn after you know it all that counts." It's what you learn after you know it all that counts. If you really want to grow as a leader, you must be teachable, and that's the first part of this. The second part, however, is that you have to stay teachable. Some will open up to the teachability seasons of life when they're younger because they do understand they don't quite know how to do everything. But then others will get older and feel like they do know, and they will cut off the opportunities to be taught and to learn. So it's kind of like how I pastor here on, it's not just enough that you get connected, you have to stay connected. It's not enough to just become teachable at one point in your life. You have to stay teachable. The greatest enemy of learning is knowing. And the opposite of one who is teachable is one who already knows it all. Don't be that person, because nobody likes to deal with that person. There's not a boss that you will work for on planet Earth that likes to deal with know-it-alls. And maybe he's it, but you know what? He's the boss. And it is what it is. So the opposite of one who is teachable is one who knows it all. Inevitably, in my experience, when you come across someone who receives no advice, no counsel, no direction, no instruction, they're not very teachable. And most non-teachable people, especially if it's later in life, let's say after your 30s or so, if they haven't got a hold of being teachable by then, they're just probably not going to be. Those people are the hardest people to work with because it doesn't matter what you tell them, you know it's going in one ear and right out the other. Those people are hard to work with on a team because they obviously know it all. So if any of the team members say, "Hey, have you thought about," well, they get defensive because, well, yeah, they've already thought about it. And the reason why I ain't doing it is because it ain't supposed to be done that way. And so you end up with this tug of war, even in the context of a church. You end up with a tug of war of people who are either teachable and they're trying to grow and expand themselves and benefit the team, or you've got those who are not teachable and they're just stubborn, they're set in their ways, they won't bend, they won't compromise even in a good way. They won't compromise at all. And so those are telltale signs when they already know it all and they won't receive any instruction that that person is not teachable. Some people want to be right when they are not. And as a result, life is very difficult for them. They never find the pathway of learning, nor do they learn the lessons life offers to those with a teachable spirit. There are lessons that a know-it-all will not learn because they are not giving themselves over to the opportunity to learn. They're already shut off because they already know it. You can't tell them nothing. You can't correct them. You can't advise them. And so that person is going to miss a lot of learning opportunities, all because they did not have a teachable spirit. Now, the good thing about teachability is this. It's a choice. People are not just born with a teachable spirit. Well, I just wasn't born with a teachable spirit. The devil is a liar. It ain't a matter if you were born with it. Teachability is a choice. You choose, here's that dirty word, to submit. It's amazing that teachability and submission are like synonymous. They like go hand in hand. You really can't have one without the other. If you are submissive, you are going to be teachable. God's going to be able to speak to you. The Word's going to be able to speak to you. The man of God's going to be able to speak to you. A prophet, an evangelist, your boss can speak to you. If you have a teachable spirit, you are submissive to hearing instruction. If you are not submitted, you're probably not teachable. And you're probably not going to take a lot of advice. And so teachability is a choice. We choose whether we are open or closed to new ideas, new experiences, others' ideas, people's feedback, and the dreaded willingness to change. We have the choice of that. We can choose whether we are open to any of those things. Now, this is an amazing statement, and I'll end with this again at the end of the session. All the good advice in the world will not help you if you do not have a teachable spirit. You could have a library full of books that you have read, picking apart everything you already knew. Or you can have a library of books that have helped stretch you and expand your knowledge and have made you better, made you think. That's one good reason to read, because you're having to use your brain. You're having to process what you're reading. It's going through, it's being processed, and then it's starting to make sense, and you're able to put things together. So all the good advice in the world, having the best, we have so many resources now on our smartphones. We are so without excuse on being able to reach out into the world of resources and pull from that world. All the good advice in the world will not help you if you do not have a teachable spirit. So let's look at, tonight we're going to look at 5 traits of a teachable person. If you're taking notes, these are going to be 5 things that you will want to be able to do, be, see it in other people, especially if you're wanting to build a team or work with people. Here, these are 5 traits of a teachable person. If you desire to find the pathway from failure to success, you need to cultivate the following 5 traits. Number 1, teachable people have an attitude conducive to learning. Teachable people have an attitude conducive to learning. People with a teachable spirit approach each day as an opportunity for another learning experience. Their hearts are open. Their minds are alert for something new. Their attitudes are expectant. They know that success has less to do with possessing natural talent and more to do with choosing to learn. Because your talent and what you're naturally good at will only take you so far. You can be great at fill in the blank, and that'll take you to a certain level. Beyond that, if you don't keep learning, you will get left right where you are. And those around you that pursue excellence and are eager to learn and are there with open ears and hearts and spirits to receive how to be even better, they will just bypass you and leave you in their dust. And you will be sitting there wondering, but I'm the best at, well, you used to be. You were at one time, especially when your mama kept telling you that, but you realize that your mama ain't around now. Your mama didn't hire you. Your mama ain't paying you. And all of a sudden, you're surrounded by people who are better than you, and because you haven't kept stretching, people who didn't start off as fast as you are now passing you. So teachable people have an attitude conducive to learning. They approach every day with, I wonder what I'm going to learn today. I wonder what I can learn today. What is something I'm going to experience today that I hadn't experienced yesterday, and I'm going to be better for it tomorrow? Those are teachable people. Number 2, teachable people possess a beginner mindset. Teachable people possess a beginner mindset. When people are actually beginners, they find it easy to have a beginner's mindset. Now think about this. When you first start off on those training wheels and you know you don't know what you're doing, you're a lot more eager to listen, even though you're wanting to pedal. You're at least listening because you ain't never been here before. And everything makes sense until you get on top of that bike seat. And then you're looking down, and it looks like you're about 20 feet up in the air, and it's a little different, okay? As a beginner, it's easy to have a beginner's mindset, but maintaining that teachability becomes more difficult as you learn more and achieve some success. After you've been riding training wheels for a little while, you don't need nobody's advice. You know what you're doing. Okay, here's another way to say it. The longer you are in a position, the less you think you need to learn. And that's a dangerous spot to get in. The longer you are in a position, the less you think you need to learn. I know people right now who hadn't read a book in 2 decades because they already know everything. You can't help them. You can't teach them nothing. If they had the discipline, they would write the bestsellers. It just is what it is. There are people who are where they've been for years and will more than likely, unless a major breakthrough happens, will be right there until they die. Because they've put the proverbial glass ceiling on themselves. They've put the lid on themselves because they've stopped growing. There's no more capacity to learn because they know everything. You have to continually raise the bar. So you come up to meet it. Then you raise the bar again. You come up to meet that. If you don't, again, you're going to be stuck somewhere 2 decades ago, and people are going to be flying past you with resources and technology and abilities and knowledge that you don't have. What are y'all talking about? Yep, right? Technology is that way with a lot of older people right now. And I'm fastly going to be approaching that in the next 20 years where technology will come behind me. If I don't stay at least some way up to date with what's going on, I'll be lost as a goose. And Natalie will be like tapping into the Pentagon and the White House and sending them following pattern Bible studies in PDF format from my email address, right? And I won't even know what happened. The FBI is knocking on my door. Sir, do you have a girl here by the name of Natalie? Oh, as a matter of fact, I do. I sure do. You have to be careful that the longer you are in a position, the less you think you need to learn. Don't be that person that thinks that because you have been in that role, bless God, for 10 years, you can't tell me nothing I don't already know. We'll probably replace you. Just give me time. You just can't have that mentality. Young people, you cannot have that mentality. You will not make it in this work world if you are not continually pushing yourself to become better. Logan, right now, he's climbing that little corporate ladder even as a trainee, and he's learning. And, he could have went and worked for a different company that would have probably thrown him in his own truck by now and just kind of thrown him to the wolves. But Logan, we talked about it, and I agreed with him. He was able to think about it on his own. I don't know if I'm ready for all that. I think I'd rather be, kind of an apprenticeship for a couple of years so that when I do get my truck, I'm ready. I'm like, ding, 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 ding. you will be so much more prepared when you finally get your own truck that when you leave that house, they will be glad you stopped by. Rather than calling your boss and his boss and the big boss. Look, I don't know who that redheaded boy was, but that kid don't know a screwdriver from a pile driver. Okay, we got to get this thing worked out, right? Okay, you have to be willing to learn and listen. There's a reason why the Lord gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. I'm just saying. Now, I try to maintain a beginner's mindset by keeping the following 3 things in mind. Here's how you can do this, okay? You want to know how at the age of 45 and at 50 and 60, you can keep the beginner's mindset that you had at 7. Here's how you do it. Number 1, everyone has something to teach me, good or bad. There's some people that you will come in contact with in your life, and they're going to teach you everything good. Like, you just go home taking notes. You just had lunch with them, and you're like, man, they are incredible, blah, 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 blah. Then there's going to be those people that you're going to come in contact with, and they're going to teach you everything bad you don't want to do. You can learn something from everybody. Some will teach you the good stuff. Some are going to teach you the bad stuff. Please pay attention so you don't get those mixed. Okay? Please focus and pay attention to what's going on. Look at their track record. Look at where they're going. Look at the direction they're headed. Okay? If it's good, listen. If it's bad, pay attention so that you don't repeat it. Number 2, every day I have something to learn. Make up your mind. Every day I have something to learn. I try to read something every day. Now, some days I get to read more than others. It just depends on what happens. What phone call and text message I have waiting on me when I wake up. That's really what depends on my day. But I try to read something every day. You need to do something every day that challenges your brain, makes you think. I have friends I will call riding down the road so that I've got something to do, just to be able to talk and think and drive. And we'll talk about Bible stuff. We'll talk about, I'll call guys that I know are smarter than me and ask a question just to kind of see where they come, what perspective they come from, because I know what I've been reading and thinking. And then we go back and forth, and by the time you've got through collaborating, man, this is some good stuff. That's how you grow. Every day, I've got something to learn. Okay? Number 3, every time I learn something, I benefit. You are a better person every day for having learned something you didn't know the day before. And in time, you'll pull from things you learn. It'll pop up in your mind, a conversation, a book you read, an article you read, something you heard, and it'll just, right when you need it, it'll pop up, and you'll like, boy, that was, thank you, Jesus. If you hadn't put any time in of reading and listening and talking, you won't have those moments. You'll be sitting there deer in the headlights, don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Right? Okay, so learn, okay? Number three, the third trait of a teachable person. Number 3, teachable people take long, hard looks in the mirror. Teachable people take long, hard looks in the mirror. Becoming and remaining teachable requires people to honestly and openly evaluate themselves on a continual basis. People who do not grow, I promise you, they are narcissistic, number 1. There's your big word. They are narcissistic, number 1, in their nature. And number 2, because they know it all, nobody can teach them anything. They are the epitome of everything you need to know. Ask them, they'll tell you. Sometimes you don't have to ask them, and they'll still tell you. Becoming and remaining teachable requires people to honestly and openly evaluate themselves on a continual basis. When these people evaluate themselves, it don't take very long because they're good. Okay? Anytime you face a challenge, a loss, or a problem, challenge, loss, or a problem, anytime you're facing these things, one of the first things you should ask yourself is, am I the cause? What was my part in this? Now, if you didn't have any part in it, great. But if you did, if the answer is yes, you need to be ready to make changes with you. It's kind of like the Bible, don't be judging everybody else for the specks you see when you got a beam in your own eye. Make sure you're taking care of you. And if you're taking care of you and they're taking care of them, then we all pray that in time we all just get taken care of. And so, remaining teachable, you have to be willing to look at the mirror and say, you know what? I need to work on that. You've heard me preach the concept of mirror moments, whereas you need to spend more time looking in the mirror than you do out the window. It's easy to look out the window and point everybody else's problems out. No one wants to spend any time in the mirror. That might be because of what you're seeing, which might be what you need to work on. You need to spend some time in the mirror and make sure you are taking care of you. What do I need to work on? If you have a problem, if there's a challenge coming on, and you answer the question yes to am I the cause, you need to be willing enough to fix yourself. Recognizing your own part in your failings, seeking solutions, no matter how painful, and working hard to put them into place leads to the ability to change, grow, and move forward in life. Some people are stuck in 1997 because they've never dealt with it. Some people are stuck 4 years ago with what somebody did to them because they just ain't never dealt with it. You are not going to grow unless you are willing to just deal with what you can deal with. Okay? So, recognizing your own part is the way you're able to go about growing. You hear me say this all the time, and this is something that I practice myself. I'm not asking anybody in leadership at this church to do what I don't already do personally, and people who especially are up here on this platform, namely Stephanie and Ravi, they know all the time that if I mess up, I'll fess up. That is my rule of thumb. If you mess up, fess up. If you made the mistake, everybody knows you did it. It ain't like you're going to shock them when you say, I want to make a confession. They're like, they already know. Okay, if you mess up, fess up. I cannot tell you how many frustrating moments I've had in leadership with people who just won't admit they were wrong. There's been people leave the church before, between every church I've been a part of. So you don't know which one I'm talking about. That they were wrong, and they never would admit they were wrong. And it was just easier to uproot and leave than it was to admit they were wrong. You don't want to live your life like that. Bottom line is, a lot of our issues have zero to do with geography. It has everything to do with us. And you can move to Hawaii. Oh, it's going to be beautiful for a while. Oh, you're going to love it. Oh, this is the best thing. Thank you, Jesus. Jesus didn't send you there. IBM did. And you're out there and you're enjoying the water and you're enjoying, all the coconuts and everything else that goes on in Hawaii. And all of a sudden, the same thing, the same problem just kind of pops up one day. And all of a sudden, you're wanting to pack your bags and move to North Dakota. Because, this problem won't be in North Dakota. Yeah, it will, because you just showed up. Don't be the person that will not fess up when they mess up. If you made the mistake, just save everybody the frustration, including God, and just admit it. That was me. I can't tell you how many times I'll look at Stephanie Maravi's face and I'll know when I look at her face if I'm right or wrong. Because she'll be going, and I'll be like, oops, I'm sorry. That was me. My bad. Now, everybody in this praise team knows I can't remember any of these words. I will make up words. I will say all kind of stuff. You don't ever know what I'm going to say. And you know what? During practice, I apologize. When it's live, it is what it is. You know, the Lord knows I'm trying to get somebody to take over. Anyway, so if you mess up, fess up. Look, there ain't nothing wrong with you admitting what everybody already knows. Don't be so proud and think you are above admitting you hit the wrong lick, came in on the wrong beat. Don't get all bitter and backslide and go to hell because the band looks at you and goes, that wasn't right. If you hit the wrong note, I'm sorry. Y'all might not be able to hear it, but my ears start just drooping. I can't handle it. I don't, if it's in my church or anybody else's church, when the band's hitting the wrong notes, the worship experience is over. It is pure flesh at that moment. My ears are just going, I can't handle it. I cannot. Listen, do your best, but if you ever mess up, just fess up. Hey, that was me, okay? Everybody say if you mess up, fess up. Number 4, teachable people encourage others to speak into their lives. Now, this is important because this is going to take a lot of effort on the unteachable spirit because this means they have to shut their mouth and open their ears. Okay? Teachable people encourage others to speak into their lives. Teachable people surround themselves with people who know them well and who will lovingly, yet honestly, speak into their life. However, that can be a challenge for many reasons. First, you must be willing to develop strong enough relationships with people that you can credibly ask them to speak into your life. Don't go ask a liar or your mama how good you did. Because she's going to tell you did so good, and you hit every wrong note. You hit more wrong notes than right notes. And she's like, that was so good. I am so proud of you. And the instructor's going, they need to quit. Like they need to take up something else because music is not their gift. Right? Okay? You have to ask somebody credible. Now, and that ain't your mom all the time. Now, credibility obviously comes with experience. And, you know, the best people to ask are the people who are further down the road and have done it. As a church planner, it was always aggravating to me to hear people who had never done it try to tell me how to do it. Amen. How about I punch you in the face? All right? How many wants to hear somebody tell you how to do something when they've never done it themselves? Nobody wants to hear somebody try to instruct them on how to do something they have never done themselves. So, what do? You search out and you seek for someone who's further down the road. If you have, okay, for example, this is teachability. If you have debt issues, do not stay in debt the rest of your life and just think, well, I guess it's the will of God. It ain't the will of God. I guess it's just my lot in life. I'm just going to be, in debt. No. Shut your mouth, open your ears, and go find somebody who is not in debt. That's first step. You don't go ask somebody that's in debt with you how to get out. Ask somebody who's not in debt, how do I do this? And when you ask them that question, how do I do this, stop talking. And just listen to what they tell you. Because they'll help you if you'll listen. And you know what? If you'll do what they're telling you, because they've probably done it years ago, then you know what? You'll come out of debt. And then all that weight and pressure and panic attacks and anxiety and high blood pressure and cholesterol and sleepless nights will just fade away. And you'll be so glad that you were teachable. So you find somebody who's credible and you ask them to help you. Secondly, they must be courageous and honest enough to speak freely to you. Now, most people who know what they're doing don't have that problem. They will be courageous and honest enough to just speak freely. I do that on a daily basis. Anyway, I'm just saying. And third, we'll move right along on that one. And third, you must be willing to accept their feedback and criticism without defending yourself. Otherwise, you will only receive it once. You have to take your personal defense out of the equation to become submitted and teachable to what someone who could help you is trying to help you with. You cannot carry your feelings on your shoulders, or you'll only ask them one time. And then you'll walk away going, I ain't no way I'm doing all that. And you know what? You'll just stay in your mess until either A, you hit total rock bottom and you have no other choice, or you finally get the nerve to listen to what they're having to say. So let these people speak into your life. Open your ears. Listen to what they have to say. Don't sit around all defensive and ready to fight. They're trying to help you, okay? Listen. Number five. Fifth trait, last trait. Teachable people learn something new every day. Teachable people learn something new every day. The secret to any person's success can be found in his or her daily agenda. People grow and improve, not by huge leaps and bounds, but by small incremental changes. That is one of the biggest mistakes and almost myths of leadership, is that either A, people are born that way, and leadership is developed. Everybody has the capacity to be better. Now, you might not be gifted in certain areas, but you all have the capacity to be better at what you do. Okay, so you have to understand that it's not leaps and bounds. You're not gonna have been in debt and it took you 20 years to get there and you be out of debt in 3 weeks. It's just not going to happen. It took you 20 years to get there. It's going to take you a little time. Now, depending on how aggressive you are, how much debt you have, and how much you listen, you can get out quicker than 20 years. We hope. That's the idea. Okay? But it ain't going to be 3 weeks. I didn't get this beautiful figure overnight. It's taken me 42 years to perfect this thing. Okay? I mean, there's a lot of good eating that's going on in 42 years. Okay? Now, to lose my beauty would take me a little longer than I would want it to. But it's just small. I have to remind myself, and I tell my wife every time I have to drag myself out the door to go to the gym, anything's better than nothing. And when I get there, I feel better. But boy, there are days I have to grab my flesh and just drag it to the truck and get it and put it in drive. It's just, you know what? Anything's better than nothing. Okay? So, teachable people try to leverage this truth by learning something new every day. A single day is enough to make us a little larger or a little smaller or a little smarter. Okay? Several single days strung together will make us a lot larger and smarter. So just little bits by little bits eventually becomes lots, okay, in time. If we do that every day, day upon day, there is great power for change. Just a little bit. Don't think you have to. I tell people, especially new converts, when they come to truth, don't expect to eat the whole pie in one sitting. Just eat a piece. Just sit down and eat a piece and enjoy it. And then eat another piece. And enjoy it. And then eat another piece. We can't expect people who have never even heard of truth to come in and catch on when we've been raised in it. It just takes time. And I love watching David Brandon because poor David, he don't even quite know who Noah and Moses was when he came, I mean, he'd heard their names mentioned a little bit, but, watching him worship and in service and watching his hands throw up in that video when I go back and watch it. And just by the way, I love that tattoo. It just, man, it makes me smile. When I see his tattoo flash up on that video, I'm like, yeah, the devil is a liar. I love it. That's the will of God. That is the will of, he got a long ways to go to know what I know. But he's come a long ways. Okay? And that's little bits. It's just a little bit every day. You just grow a little bit every day, and after a while, we'll look back, and he won't even remember not having known what he knows. To be teachable requires a willingness to learn. This is good right here. To be teachable requires a willingness to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Sometimes the hardest things we have to do is unlearn. Because we learn it the wrong way. That's one of the biggest hurdles anybody coming from a denominational background is you almost have to unsave them to save them, right? You have to unlearn certain things to then learn, right? Okay, so that's what being teachable requires. Sometimes it's learning something you ain't never known before. Sometimes it's having to unlearn what you were taught and then relearn something better, okay? That's all good. Just make sure you're learning. Living to your potential requires you to keep learning and expanding yourself. For that, you must have a teachable spirit. If you don't, you will come to the end of your potential long before you come to the end of your life. What you could have been, even should have been, will never have been if you don't stay teachable. And you will have come just so far. You're 21, and bless God, that's all that you know enough now to know what everybody else needs to do. That's as far as you're going to go. You're going to have a long life. Potential was to the sky, but you blocked yourself and you stopped there. Don't be that person. Okay? Now, there are 10 questions that reveal, and you don't have to write all these down. You'll get the idea after about the third one. There are 10 questions that reveal whether or not you have a teachable spirit. So if you're here tonight and you're wondering, or if you're watching this after the fact and you're wondering, I wonder if I have a teachable spirit or not, we're going to help you out with that. Number one, okay? Don't answer them out loud, please. 10 questions that reveal whether or not you have a teachable spirit. Number one, am I open to other people's ideas? Number two, do I listen more than I talk? Number three, am I open to changing my opinion based on new information? Ooh, boy, there are some people that are just, they are just bound and determined. They are not budging. It's always been this way, bless God. That's how it's always going to be. Number four, do I readily admit when I am wrong? Man, the older I get, the more this bothers me. Because people just will not take responsibility for their actions. If you are wrong, just admit it. Man, that goes for practical leadership and it goes for eternity. Don't go to hell because you are so stubborn that you wouldn't repent over something that you did. Oh. Number five, do I observe before acting on a situation? Now, this happens to me, in my experience, this tends to happen a little easier as you get older. Do I observe before acting on a situation? Years ago, I would have acted a lot sooner than I do now. And that just comes with experience and all this gray hair that has a bunch of people's names on it. If the Lord knows the numbers of hairs on my head, He also knows there's names attached to them. Right? There's a certain... Hannah's smiling because she knows she got a few of them up there. She might be the whole backside of my head. I'm just kidding. Do I observe before acting on a situation? You know, sometimes it's best to just hold on and see what happens, you know. Praise God. Number 6, do I ask questions? Now, this is a major one, too, because the little playoff on men is that men don't ask questions. Oh, man, I don't need that map. We'll find it. Who needs directions how to build that thing? I don't need to. I can build that thing all by myself. I built playgrounds before. I can build this one. And they end up with like half the pieces still like on the box. Like, where do I? Oh, those are extras. We don't need them things. We don't need them. You know, that car that keeps passing the same gas station on that highway, like, where's that guy going? Like, I don't know, but he ain't gonna ask no questions. Let's let him. Ask questions. You are not so smart that you just can't, if you don't know the answer, ask. Number 7, am I willing to ask a question that will expose my ignorance? Now listen, I'm choleric, so I know how to control this situation. What I do is, I just tell you up front, I have no idea. So that you can't make fun of me. I've just taken that away from you. So when I go to the dealership, I'm like, listen, Jack, I'm a preacher. I have no idea how to put that piece on that little thing right there, but you do. Can you help me out? He'll be like, oh, I'll tell you what, we'll help you out. I go, when I've had to do like permits for county stuff, for the church stuff, you know, buddy, I'll walk in there and I'll let them know up front. I have no idea what I'm doing. Who here can help a brother out? They love me. Because they're so used to cocky, arrogant men walking around like wanting to tell them how to do their job. You know what? Am I willing to ask a question that will expose my ignorance? Just ask. Number 8, am I open to doing things in a way I haven't done before? That can be a big one. Number 8, number 9, am I willing to ask for directions? Do I act defensive? Number 10, do I act defensive when criticized, or do I listen openly for truth? If someone wants to now we're not talking about just jerks who are just, the only time they ever say anything is just to be mean. We're not talking about that. But if someone is wanting to criticize something, are you quick to just put the defense wall up, or are you listening for just a little bit of truth there? Could I have done better? Could I have been better? Could I have said something differently? Could I have, whatever your jobs are, think about that. You know, could I have done what they're telling me I did wrong? Could I have done it better? Or when you hear, look, you did that wrong, you just shut down. Like, not today. Not listening. Yeah. In closing, remember the great, bless you. Got a good crowd tonight. We're alive. We're just glad to be out of the house. Remember, the greatest enemy of learning is knowing. Don't be the know-it-all. Because if you think you already know everything, you will not be open to learning. The opposite of one who is teachable is one who already knows it all. Don't be that person. And lastly, all the good advice in the world will not help you if you do not have a teachable spirit. Have a teachable spirit. Don't always get on the defense whenever someone's trying to help you. And especially, you know, somehow we get this idea in the church that we'll put up with certain things in the world of our occupations and jobs, but we won't put up the same stuff in the church. I don't understand why people think that that's okay. Leadership principles are leadership principles, period. In the church, out of the church. You can be a reprobate heathen on your way to hell and be a good leader because you know principles, leadership principles. So if what we're doing in the kingdom really is that important, and it is, and the Bible tells us that everything we do, we should do as unto the Lord. And if we're supposed to be giving Him our best and serving Him with excellence, then you know what? We ought to be doing that on our jobs. And so when it comes time for reviews, you shouldn't sit down biting your fingernails wondering, oh, you've been there every day? I mean, unless it was a legit, and we're not talking about I was tired on Monday because we had good church. or calling out sick when you're at Six Flags. I'm talking about, like, you know what? You have a legit track record. You know, like, you show up to work, you're responsible, you do a great job, you serve as unto the Lord. And so when you sit down, you are expecting a raise, but that's not out of arrogance. That's because you know, I've done my job. Now, is there something I can work on? I bet I can. And when they get to that point where, now let's talk about some areas you can work on. Don't be like, listen to what they're saying. They are writing your paycheck. You know what I'm saying? Okay? Listen to what they're saying. They probably have some truth there, you know, and just take it and be like, you know what? That's some good stuff. I'm going to work on that. I really am. Thanks so much for pointing that out. And then actually work on it and watch the next review. Okay? Be teachable. Don't just be teachable at like 7. Be teachable at 17. Be teachable at 27. Be teachable at 37. Be teachable at 47. Just stay teachable, okay? And we'll be better leaders. Amen? Thank you so much for coming. And for those who will watch this after the fact, thank you for tuning in and for being a part of our leadership development. May God bless you. Hope this blesses you in some way. Have a good evening.